All right. Welcome to another week of the GenX guys with JD and Len.
Hey,
I don't know why I say it like that. JD and Len. Like, am I asking a question? Are you actually
I
here?
know.
Okay.
Well, that's another question altogether. Are we actually really here? It's not like a spiritual.
Oh, Jesus. It's a little early to go into that whole.
It's way too early. I only got one cup of coffee. That's not nearly enough.
Yeah, it's a great question, Len. Is God really around, or is the devil one, and that's why the world's the way it is?
Isn't that the Al Pacino Devil's Advocate one? The Al Pacino and Keanu Reeves one,
That's a
where
great
he
movie.
basically said,
Yeah.
But remember, I did because I saw like
Did he really? I haven't seen it
no,
in
no,
a
I didn't
while.
see it. No. I saw clips. I'm sorry, I meant to say clips, but it was the one clip where it's kind of like the reveal part, and they're arguing. He's like saying the 20th century has been mine. That type of thing. He's been an absentee deity.
Right. Oh,
Yeah,
that's right. I remember that part. Well,
yeah.
it's
That's a good
funny.
part.
The only reason that even popped in my mind this morning is that where was I? I was coming back from somewhere, and or no, I was heading to like I think the gym or something. Anyway,
Yeah,
to try and see if I could make myself feel better, which it's
yeah,
always
it didn't happen.
doesn't. It loosens it up. Anyway, the point being, I was behind a car that says "Doubt your doubts before you doubt your faith." I'm like, okay, and I don't
Yeah,
know why
okay.
it suddenly just triggered a path down my mind. Like, well, let's think about that for a second. Like,
Doubt your
you
doubts.
you always have no before you
No,
doubt your faith, but I'm before you doubt your doubts. Let's talk about. I don't want to get into faith anyway. So it just made me think like,
sure. Why not?
oh,
Well, no, why not? Why not?
because it's boring for a lot of people. Um,
I think it's pertinent today. Let's
I'm not
let's
sure how it's
let's just
pertinent
see where
today,
it
but
goes.
sure, let's just do a
Yeah,
little bit
let's see
there.
where it
Yeah,
goes.
let's
Okay,
just talk
let's
through it.
see where it goes.
Why not? Let's just go off track. I was not that we had a real track, but let's go off
No, we
track
never
a
have
little
a
bit.
track. We need a track to be on track.
So I always think about you hear the statement that only the good die young, right? And usually when you kind
It's a
of
justification, but yeah,
it is, but you also see the people you've seen who've passed away generally in a younger stage. And by younger, they can be sometimes in their 30s. I mean, there's people who die because they're like
accident.
accidents just happen and it's unfortunate, or they're just people who put themselves in a position where they get into some fight or something like that. I don't know what it is. But
Whatever.
anyway, the point is, like, I think about it, and I think about it from my perspective with both my parents, my grandparents, and all them, and also your mother and others. Like, they passed away at what I'd consider a younger age based on the lifespan today.
Right.
Granted, there were things that led to their passing, but you think,
Right.
okay, these are all good people, right? And then you got people who are alive right now who you start to wonder, okay, are they even any good? You look at your current president of the United States and question some of his actions, obviously from that level. So that made me think, oh, so did the devil win? And then you bring up the whole devil's advocate with that whole comment about an absentee deity is pretty cool. So that's it.
I mean, my perspective, especially, like my mom passed away at 44, so you can easily say that. But again, like you said, there was reasons why. She was a 2 pack a day smoker of unfiltered Pall Mall Reds. So that's whereas I don't blame her in that sense. It's like one of those things. Yeah, that's what would happen with somebody like that. Um, I think it's a coping mechanism, to be honest, when people say that. I mean,
Right.
it's a way. I think that's goes along with that bumper sticker that you saw. Instead of doubting that something's just happened, that it's not good die young. It's just that it's irrelevant. People as great as both of our moms were and your dad were as people and what they meant to us. They were human. They did things that contributed to you know, them passing away younger than they probably should have. Your dad also worked in an environment that absolutely didn't help his health. But I mean, I do think it's always more of the one of those cup mechanisms because you only focus on the good people that actually died young. You don't. There are people that you've seen pass and like that weren't good people. It's just that we highlight the ones that were good more so than not.
Right.
Um, But yeah, I think I think having my mom pass when I was young, I kinda see maybe it's just being in it, when you're younger and you can't see it, I don't know. It's just weird. I think when you have a parent that passes away when you're younger, you have a very different perspective because
Yeah.
you're not an adult. You're not fully developed. I was 14, so it was one of those things where it's like,
I don't know if you're fully
hey,
developed now, but yeah, continue.
oh no, absolutely not. I mean, maybe it's fully developed as I'm ever going to be. Um,
There you go.
but no, I definitely agree with that. But I think that you see things very differently. Like even my older brother is 8 years older than me, and I think we have a very different perspective on it just because of our age gap.
That's
Um,
very true. Yeah, that's actually a valid point. And to your point, like I brought that up because I always find an interesting debate. There's certain things in this
yeah,
world people are like passionate about debating. I mean, like straight
yeah,
passion. Like religion is definitely one, politics is the
100%.
other, and then
It's just a different religion. Yeah.
second tier, I would say sports. Right, like sports is a huge passion. People
Oh yeah.
constantly from team, but to the religious thing, yeah, it's just to your point. Like, I mean, yes, my parents. I mean, let's be honest. My mother was like 62, I think it was. So it's not like she hadn't lived a long life. She'd had a couple bouts with cancer. Obviously, one at
Right.
45, and then again passed away at 62. Father was 68, or no, he was almost 70. He would have been 70 that year, and that didn't happen. So it's not like they passed away. But I mean, obviously, from my perspective to what you just stated, yes, I had a longer life with them. So it kind of helped me develop. Whereas you're thrust into a world where your grandmother stepped up, took care of you boys. She was fucking awesome, by the way. Loved your grandmother. I loved her
Crazy old
because she
dad.
was so direct and to the point and just didn't care. And the constant conversation between you two was fantastic. But
Oh yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's what I
but
thought at that time.
but she but she was like she was focused. She cared and she was there to help out as much as she could. I mean, for her age, I mean, obviously there was only so much could be done, um, but yeah, that's why it's like you talk about faith and everything, and people say they lose their faith. Like for me, did I like I was a Catholic? I'd say I was a Catholic. I'm
Okay.
technically a Catholic.
Well, no. Let's back up. I mean, just for context, we both went to Catholic school. That's where we met.
I
We
think we brought it up probably in one
briefly
of these
went to
episodes.
Catholic high school, but also all our kids went to Catholic school, and our wives. Your wife's not Catholic, but still Christian, and Christian type faith, and
Right.
we all kind of went through that. We were married in the church, so we were. I would say we were very typical Catholics, where we're Catholics in name, but not really 100% of practice. But when the kids went to Catholic school, we went to church every when we had to. You know,
Right.
almost every Sunday we went. And my in-laws
We
are
were altar boys too. Let's put that out there.
all and yeah, the altar never caught on fire or anything, which is amazing.
Well,
Um,
yeah, that is
but
true.
no, I mean, for context, I mean, we're about as I mean, I think the one thing about a lot of times also religion is it's as much cultural as it is about faith to me. I think a lot of the things we do as Catholics, or a lot of the way we even think and do things, is shaped by being in the Catholic Church for how much of our life. I mean, again, as kids and then as parents as well. Because it's not just it's like you said, it's like there's that conflict. Like, how do you say it? Am I people always say I'm not a practicing Catholic, is kind of what they'll say. Like I know my
Right.
brother says that. My older brother will say he's not a practicing Catholic, but he'll do the things like not eat fish or not eat meat on during Lent and things like that. So it's like he does those obligation parts of being Catholic, but actually not practicing the faith part of it. If that makes sense.
No, it does. I mean, it's just so that comes back to my point, right? Like, I'm a Catholic. To your point, yes, we all our history, our families, and whatnot. Like for my family, my grandmother obviously was very much going to church. I think every morning when she was around, and at least as long as she could. And then, of course, every Sunday or Saturday, depending on what was available. My mom would take her a lot of times too. Um, but she was doing that, and so for her, having her grandchildren all being baptized, like all my aunts and uncles had their kids baptized. Whether or not they truly may have wanted to continue that path is irrelevant. They just that's just kind of how it was. You just did it, and then every single one of them got what's first communion, right? The whole
First
first
communion.
communion, which interestingly enough, in some faiths there is no such thing as first communion. There's just you just receive the body of Christ or whatever you might call it.
You just are gonna, yeah.
Um, and so for that point, okay, they went up to there. And then after that, things like confirmation and following the church and then getting married in churches later on for the grandkids for my grandma wasn't really the thing. Like for a lot of my cousins, if they did get married, they didn't get married in a church.
Hmm.
I mean, I think only two of us of like really, well, the original 10, and then three more came a little bit later on from my uncle, but the original 10, only two of us actually got married in Catholic churches.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Myself, because even my sister, when she got married like 10 years ago or 12 years ago or 15 years ago, she didn't do it in the Catholic Church because the Catholic Church wouldn't allow her to, because of her husband wasn't a Catholic, and the Catholic Church is like very adamant about
Very
certain
adamant
things,
about
right?
that.
They're one of the
Very
most
much in the
adamant.
dogma.
Yeah. By the way, that's available on DVD. Fantastic movie. But
I've had it downloaded for a decade. So, but anyway.
But the point is, like, yeah, like, did they lose faith? I guess is the question. Like, is some of this just because they've just realized church was a chore more than something they felt they needed to do? Like, to me, yeah, when I'm younger, it felt like a chore. Like, I had to go. Like, I don't want to go. Like, I didn't connect. I just had to go. My mom said, "Get up, we're going," and we'd go.
Yeah, you didn't have a choice.
No, didn't have a choice. And then to your point, as the kids came along, obviously we went and continued. I kind of continued that tradition because it wasn't so much about whether or not they were Catholic or not, that I really wanted the Catholic faith forced upon them. I thought the education at some of these schools were better structured for them to succeed. And it just happened to be Catholic schools, right? Like if there were other better private schools I could have found, I probably would have gone that route versus the public schools available at the time. So
yeah,
kind of ties into that. But my children, I mean, I would say my daughter's probably the closest when it comes to practicing Catholic. And both my boys, not so much. So, but yeah, it's the whole, have they lost faith? And the answer is no. I don't think they've necessarily lost faith. People lose faith as much as maybe to some degree there's some belief still there. But in reality, the traditional day-to-days, the weeklies, and those sort of things, it's just not practiced as much anymore. And I'm pretty certain that's probably true for a lot of churches and a lot of people. But yeah, I really don't know how we got onto this whole conversation.
No. We get devil's advocate. No. But I think, like for me, I totally agree with you. But I think for me, it was the dogma part of it. I mean, as you talk about the movie, but I totally agree with that parts of it. I think it's the things that have to be done when you start. I think the hard part for me was because after my mom passed away, I still went to Sunday church for like 2 years after that on my own. There was a little bit. I think there was a little bit of comfort in that, but I think the thing is, as you start getting older, you start to. For me, I started questioning the dogma side of things. The idea of confession, the idea of all of these things of you have to go to church, you have to do this, and all these things, and it made me just question. And I think at that time for me, I equated my faith and everything with the church. And I think that's the part where people have issues is you start seeing the church with all these rules that you have to follow that really don't mean shit. I mean, if you really think about, Christ had really one rule, just do unto others. And I think, that one, if you kind of follow that one, you're kind of good. I mean, if you want to be treated a certain way.
You're talking about, dude, they had 10 commandments. Okay.
I know. But was it really?
They had 15, but Moses dropped one of the tablets and became the 10.
The 15, the 10, but and I think that's where I started losing it was, and also like I remember it wasn't really an incident at church, but I think it was a catalyst for it was, there was a mom of one of our classmates who saw me like at church. I think she went to like the later mass and I always went to the 10 o'clock. It was just that type of thing. And she said something and somebody like made a comment, like not like really offhanded, but like, oh, it's good that you still go to church because church is what carries you through it. And it's just one of those comments that people make.
A lot of people, yeah, 100%. A lot of people make those comments.
And I don't think it was meant, negatively. I think it was one of those things that was meant, in a positive manner. Like, oh, it's good that you still go to church because it helps you carry through it. And then it's one of those things where I kind of started thinking like, no, my family carried me through it. It's not like my brothers were perfect or but I had to be there for them, and they were there for us. And it's like even little things. Like one of the things that I remember stood out was like when I told our close friend Tom that my mom had cancer, like he like offered to let me beat the shit out of him. Like he said, "Do you want to punch me?" No, but it was that type of thing that I'm like going like I understand how people equate it, but I started really thinking about it, and I think what happens is right when you start questioning your faith, you lose your faith. And I think for me, that's like when I lost my faith in terms of a God or religion, where I started questioning it. So I think for me, I know when that started happening, it was like I was 16, and I was just like one of those, huh. And then I started questioning like, why do we have to go to church? Why do we need confession? If I feel bad, God knows, right? So why do I have to tell a fucking priest? Well, it's because 1,000 years ago, people used to pay for their penance, and it just was something that the Catholic Church kind of continued. And just a lot of these things make me kind of go,
Yeah, I mean, there's
"Is it
definitely
really?"
and to your point, you just hit on an important piece: the history of the church and all churches, for that matter.
All
Not
churches.
even just like
Yeah,
think about it: the
I agree.
Crusades, everything. Like the Pope was basically the emperor of the world when it came to a lot of countries that just
Right.
whatever the Pope said, and he was just out there getting money too. It was all about coffers and trying to get as much cash as they could and
Mhm,
control. Because in the end, it's all politics and the same concept, right? It's
mhm.
more about who can control who and who can control the narrative. But to your point, like the comment you made, which I think is an interesting one too, which I've heard before about it's good to go to the church so it can help carry you through type thing. And I always think about that one because it's been brought up before in the past too. And the church is helpful; it'll help you get through your issues and whatnot, or can help enlighten you, or whatever it might be. There's many different terms people can use, but the point is,
Yeah, yeah.
I've always looked at when people say that. I don't know. Like for some, they truly believe it helps them, and that's great. For some, they need that, and that's fine, and that really ties
Yeah,
them to it. Nothing wrong with that.
totally agree.
The thing I don't agree with is obviously the pushiness of saying you need to do it, or this is how you should follow. Like that's the big debates that go on today in the world with the
Yeah,
whole
definitely
religions.
forced. Yeah.
But that to that comment, I always thought about it also as when you go to church, it's a way to at least connect with a group of people in a similar fashion, or at least talk to people, is what their hope was. Like I felt exactly how you
I
feel,
agree with that. Yeah.
but and you're right. The family is more likely to get me through it than people at a church. But if you know people at church all the time, it's a good way to at least hopefully they can help maybe connect
They
with you
become
and
family.
exactly. And that's why I think that's kind of ties
I
into
agree
it.
with that.
Um, but I'd also say when it comes to like the whole faith, loss of faith, and whatnot. Like my great aunt was a Dominican nun, so she, and she was a history teacher, and so all my when I was growing up, all my conversations with her, and she would tell me a lot, but even she knew there were also realities too.
Yeah.
Like she didn't enforce you have to do a certain way. I think she was much more of the light, at least that I can remember, of here's the important parts out of this basically.
Right.
Here's what's most important. You want to treat people with respect. You
Mhm.
want to think about doing the best that you can as far as within society and whatnot. Be helpful. And obviously, go to church, great. Do not expect me to go all the time. But just the learnings, basically, the core of it is, to your point, do unto others as you would do to yourself. It's like try and show some nice and patience and the better way of doing things versus always going down the dark path. And that's unfortunately why I kidded around to start with. Like, did the devil win? I mean, a lot of what you see today is dark path and dark path, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of good out there. You never see it though in today's media, but we're not going to get into that one. We've already talked about that plenty of times. But yeah, it's like, is
Yeah.
there faith? And the thing that I don't want to hammer on this too long, but the one thing about this as well is where I find the humor is look, the church is based off Jesus Christ, right? So it's based on the start of Jesus Christ. Really, is when the Catholic Church, pretty much, at least for the Catholic Church, and for a lot of
Right.
church too, because they all focus more on
Oh,
the Son of God and how that mattered.
well, in Christianity, yeah.
Yeah, for Christianity, but for Muslims and whatnot, there's a totally different concept there,
Of course.
or even for Confucius and all the others as well, and Buddha and whatnot. But
Right.
related to Christianity, the interesting part is this is what always kills me every time in today's world. First off, if he's the son of a carpenter, to your point early on, when it's Lent, people don't eat every Friday meat, right? So that's the day they just randomly picked and said no Fridays for 40 days. But at no point did Jesus say, you know what, you need to follow this practice. He only starved for 40 days because he was literally walking through a desert and had nothing but bread and water to keep him alive.
It's
So there's
the
a
dogma.
distinct difference behind that. Trying to follow, if you really want to follow his path, then you better only drink water and bread for 40 days.
But see, I think, and you hear
Now
it
that's
with all
extreme,
religions.
obviously, what I'm saying.
No. But I'm just saying, you hear it with all religions, and I think we focus on Catholicism because that's what we are and that's what we know.
That's the one I know
But
the most.
I think
Exactly, yeah.
it's every fucking religion. They try to say, do this and it'll make you closer. It's like, no, seriously, because there are people that you see, but going to church, on a regular basis when our kids were in school, you would see these people that went in and followed those rules that you say, but were horrible people.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you'd see
The
them, you'd
hypocrisy,
see
yeah.
them come in, the hypocrisy. You would see people, try leaving a parking lot after church is out, and people mad. See, like there was an event that would happen, and you could see people who went to church regularly would be irritated because now this mass was crowded because of whatever reason. Or
Right.
even on a holy day of obligation, Palm Sunday, whatever it may be, you can see that people would be irritated that, oh, it's crowded now. It's like, well, Christ would say, I'm glad these people are here. But I think people get so caught up on these dogmas that they forget about the base, most of the time, what the base reason behind the religion is. And they get
Right.
caught up on semantics. And I think it's all religions. I think it's funny because you talked about the feverish before. As soon as you bring this up, somebody's gonna say, well, Muslims do this, or well, Episcopalians do this, and then well, we do this. And it's like, okay, if your religion is really worth something, you don't say that type of shit to begin with. It's not a contest. You know what I mean? And people, it's almost like sports. It's almost like this whole thing of the one-upmanship that you'll see people doing when it comes to religion. And it's like, no, honestly, all these religions are kind of just, again, the base reasons behind them are totally fine. The faith, the believing in something, the getting closer, even the idea of prayer. Idea of prayer to me is like meditation. I think that's the reason why
Yeah.
a lot of prayer works for people is because it's no different than meditation. You're sitting there, you're putting yourself in this, you're setting your mind's eye, you're visualizing, you're doing that type of thing. And so I think it is a positive thing. But I think when people make it into this, maybe war is the wrong word, but it's what automatically pops in my head because there's been so many wars about religion that it's like, holy crap, there's wars about this because you want to own a piece of land or even worse is when you have wars between, Protestants and Catholics or different factions of Muslims fighting against each other. That to me is just one of those things that just rails into the point where, like religion, it's not the religion that's it's the dogma and the people that screw up religion that you see all the time.
It's like the Church of England. That was legitimately created because they didn't like the Pope dictating who should be king. This was during Queen Elizabeth's time.
Yeah.
Or King Henry VIII's time, I think is actually when it came
Yeah,
out.
I think it was yeah.
But
yeah, it was
like
purely
that wasn't done
constructive
because I need faith to be. I believe something different. It's done because I don't want someone dictating to me what to do. This was a political move, and so they created the Church of England.
Yeah.
And so and to your point, yeah, when you had missionaries going around to the world to all these new continents and these locations that people hadn't traveled.
It was
just
truly
passed the
just to
word.
spread the word of God. It was just truly to spread it and be like, "You want to hear this?" And everything. But then when they start, forcing them to go to schools and making them so that they don't talk their pagan language anymore and doing these changes that you've seen, again, we knowing Christian missionaries, that's what we saw happen all the time. It's just one of those things that makes you go, yeah, okay, no. And just, there's always the rules that you have to follow or else you're going to hell. And it's like, really? Tell me why that has to be a rule. Does
Well,
that
keep in
really
mind,
do
yeah.
anything?
Well, yeah, the whole hell thing I find humorous primarily because they've always stated that as long as you give penance before you die, you'll go to heaven. So it's like I could be a horrible person then my
No,
whole
no, no,
life.
no. But remember, you have to be truly sorry for it.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
That's the one caveat. You just can't say, "Oh, I feel bad for it," and
Yeah.
and lie. It has to be truly in your heart. So, but the thing is,
Eh,
it goes to the thing of how many people will cancel people out. Like, look, a lot of people won't give somebody a second chance. They're like, once
so
you do
do so,
something wrong, you're
yeah.
damned.
I agree. I'm curious, do you think the younger generation today follows as much as well? Or are they getting like
I
I
think they're worse.
obviously in sports, you see all the time when they get an interview with someone who's in college or whatnot. First, I want to praise God for
You see
everything.
that
It's like,
more though, because there was when Ohio State won the national championship the previous year. There was a major, group of them, a big group, and especially the major players on that team that were rallied around their faith, and they weren't, like, ashamed to say it. But
yeah,
the thing
there's
is,
nothing
we
wrong with that.
also
I'm asking, do you think it's increasing with the younger generation is getting more
I don't know.
involved? Do you think it's about the same level? I mean, it's hard to say, to be honest with you, but at least
Well,
when I look at it
again,
more and more, to
is
your
it the
point,
churches or is it faith? Because I think they're
well, I think their
way
faith is based off the churches when they're young, right? Like
right, of course. That's how you
Baptist,
learn it. Right.
Catholic, whatever you want to call. But I think that's where it first starts.
Of course. But I don't know, like, even with, like, and I'm just using because you brought up the sportsman, I see, like, the players at Ohio State doing it, and it didn't seem like there was a certain faith, it was just more their faith in God. You know what I mean? It wasn't so much I mean, of course, I think it seemed like they were all Christian-based faith, and under that type of God and, under Christ and everything, but it didn't seem like it was under religion, but no, it's a good point. I mean, if younger people are doing it nowadays, that's a good question. Are they doing it based upon, you know, are they coming back to the church or are they coming back to the faith after kinda like how I did, like how I left the church because I was disillusioned about, the dogma and the teachings and the contradictory things in the history made me kinda leave the church, and it did affect my faith, where I'm, like, the worst type of person. I'm agnostic. It just means I'm wishy-washy, like, I'm uncommitted to it. At
Your
least an atheist would
ADHD
say
is
no.
kicking in. You can't
It
commit to
really is.
anything.
I go back and forth on it all the time, so it's just me being indecisive on it. But I mean, yeah, it's a good question. I wonder if we are seeing a slight uprise in faith, but what's the catalyst for it? I don't think it doesn't seem like
Is
it's
it because the
current.
world looks it looks scarier more and more with all that goes on,
I
or
wouldn't
is it
doubt it.
because people are just connecting more, or just feeling a sense of connection more to a greater cause, right? To a greater being than themselves.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's probably tied together because I've always seen religion as one of those things where it's a way to give you reassurance that there's a higher
Yeah,
power. And I mean, I think on the negative side for me to play devil's advocate on it, I look at it as like conspiracy theorist. It's easier to say I put all my faith in God, which means I have no control over this. I have no control over the outcome, which I think like how conspiracy theorists work. They don't like the fact that there's random things happen, that the life in the universe is random, that anything can happen. It goes even back to the original conversation we started having, which is, only the good die young. No, it
right,
just our parents unfortunately had bad habits that increased the risk of cancer, and they ended up dying because of it. I mean, my grandmother was 90 when she passed away, and she smoked for 50 years, 2 to 3
right,
packs. She had a cigarette in each room of our house going, like, she would forget and light up another one. She was that type of smoker.
right.
Um, and she didn't. And I
My
think so
grandmother was into her 80s, and same thing. Like they
yeah,
smoked all. Now she stopped at a certain point in her life.
same. But still, if you're talking my grandmother started when she was a teenager, she stopped when
Oh,
she
that was
was
expected. Yeah,
in her late 60s. So she literally had, like, 50 fucking years of smoking.
yeah,
Which and probably, like, they say that, like, for screenings, they talk about pack years, like, uh, 1 pack a day over a year is 1 pack year, and, so they say, like, you're high risk if you go over 20 pack years. Well, so
right,
she probably had, like, 100 fucking pack years with the way she smoked,
yeah.
but I think that and I don't wanna it's not saying everybody does it for this reason, but I do think that there are some people that you can see. And it's one of those things where I don't want to. I hate when I do it because I think it's judgmental. But like when you see the athletes do the, I want to thank God. Like they give praise to God. What their accomplishment. And I'm like, you're not giving praise to your mom for driving you to practice every day, or your this coach who helped push you and make you realize, what you did. But I
Yeah.
think then they say that, well, God, that's how God works. God works through those people, and I'm like, yeah, but I'd rather give credit to the people who actually did it. Like you said, like my grandmother. My grandmother was
But
I don't know
again,
where I would be without her.
to your point though, depends, right? Like if those players who go that route believe in their faith, who their mothers or fathers also state, thanks to God, you have this skill set sort of thing. So the mindset is
Right, right.
more like, I want to thank God for everything. Which again, it's fine. Like the higher being concept, and I'm going to kind of close this one out here, but like we could talk about how we came to be, all those sort of things, because that's really what ties into this. Like the whole concept of higher being is because you want to know why are we here and
Yeah.
what and how we got here specifically. Like science can talk science, but as we talked in previous episodes, science is always wrong. Meaning it's not
It's
they're
supposed to be
not wrong at the time, but they're always wrong, right? They're always finding because we're like a grain of sand in a giant dune desert, basically,
Yeah.
of knowledge about what the history is of the universe, of ourselves, of this planet for particular. So
Mhm.
anyway, it's always wrong. So the whole concept of like there's something bigger makes sense, right? Like people will find that. So anyway,
It's
I didn't
comforting.
want it is, and it's fine. And I just found it interesting. I know we went long on this one, which was good, but it's like I saw that and that instantly kicked in the whole thought. Well,
Yeah.
who really won?
But
Like,
hey, at least we can say we know where it started from.
there we go. Exactly. We can
For
come full
once.
circle back to this. So
Yeah,
speaking
we have
of
a reason.
passings this week, an actress, Catherine O'Hara, passed away.
Yeah.
I was shocked by that.
The Macaulay Culkin's response.
Yeah. So for those who are listening who don't know who
Is really
Catherine O'Hara is, obviously she's played the mother in Home Alone. She was
But
also the
wasn't
mother in
obvious. If you don't know who
Beetlejuice.
she is, it wouldn't be obvious.
It's true.
Fine.
It's true.
I'm just being a dick. I apologize.
You are. I'm trying to have a special moment here, and you're just being as selfish ass as always.
Yeah, I know.
It's all
I
about
know.
Len.
Please,
Anyway.
please go ahead. Please go ahead.
No. But yeah, I didn't like. I think she was just recently at some award shows or whatnot. It's just I started to think about it. Like she did so many great movies. She was in Schitt's Creek, that series, which was fantastic. She's most recently, which one?
Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice and the second Beetlejuice. She also did the voice of Sally in Nightmare Before Christmas.
Was she really? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, she did the voice for
Okay.
Sally. She's also in Home Alone. In Home Alone 2, obviously, is the mother. That's probably the most iconic one of all of them. But she's most recently been in like The Studio, the new series on Apple that won a lot of awards for Emmys recently that Seth Rogen put together. She was in the first season of that and was a primary character. So,
I didn't see that. I've seen clips of it, but I haven't seen it.
Have you watched the John Candy documentary? Because she's in that as well.
Yeah, she's in that one as well. Yeah.
But yeah, it's it makes me come to realize. I mean, death is inevitable for all of us, but like as we've aged, a lot of the actors or actresses, even sports figures we've grown up with, we're starting to see more of them pass away. And it's like I haven't really connected to, like they connect back to my history, growing up as far as movies that they put out. Mel Brooks being a big one too, although he's still alive. I don't want
99.
Yeah, he is 99. Great documentary on HBO, by the way. Check that out. But yeah, it's like it's one of those things where I just saw recently Phil Collins. I think, if I remember reading correctly, was in hospice care or something like that.
There's a lot of that. I think maybe
it just ages us, I guess, is my point. And
no, it does. And the
it's
thing
sad to see all these people passing away, but it's almost inevitable. But every time it's like a shock when it shouldn't really be. It really is.
And then again, you could see this on the younger side, but I mean that's actually above life expectancy, and there's probably a reason, as long as it wasn't something tragic like what happened to Rob Reiner, where it's
good
or
point.
something like that. But yeah, it is hard. I think those are the things that start aging us, where like there's little things. There of course there's a positive things. It's like your daughter she's at her bridal shower right now, but then you hear something like that, and it's like the opposite. And I think it's those type of things that's kind of that push and pull. There's amazing things that we're going to see as we get older, but then there's also holy crap. Because I mean, yeah, we never met her or whatever, but one of the things that we went to
But you
this
felt you knew her, right? Like just because of all she did and the person she
weird.
was,
Yeah,
just and that's the tough part. Going back to our original "The Good Die Young" type thing. To your point, yeah, she lived a good life as far as in 71. It's not a short period of time in life.
right. And she affected people, and people remember who she
Yeah.
is. And like I said, Macaulay Culkin's, his comments about her was one of those things where you could tell that they still had a close relationship because it just seemed, or at least it felt that way from his comment.
Well, considering how young he was when she first came into his life, there's definitely
And
that
the shit he
sense.
went through.
Yeah, and even when he ended up getting his Star of Fame on Hollywood Walk of Fame, the star, she was
Right.
there with him. Right?
Okay.
So they definitely had a connection on that one. But yeah, it's
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's just funny. We also brought up that and like the connection, like when you start seeing it all tie together because you start thinking about like who they did stuff with and so on. But like, we went to go see um a on this last Sunday. We went to go see The Princess Bride. So in Napa, they did a thing where they did a screening of The Princess Bride, and then
mhm.
Carrie Ells, the Wesley, Dread Pirate Roberts, he was actually a speaker at the very end.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
it was really cool. And for a little bit of context, The Princess Bride was the theme of my wedding. So we went to go see that primarily as a cool thing to do. But yeah, then like
Was
Rob
it the
Reiner,
theme? Fuck, I'm old. I know.
yeah,
I
it
was
was.
there clearly, but
Our wedding song was the Princess Bride, the song at the end of the movie. That was our
that was the only thing for theming wise, right? Like I'm trying to remember everything else
overall.
around. Oh, okay,
Overall,
okay, okay.
I mean, I think
Like we put
our
Mickey
theme,
balloon, mini balloons. We had Disney stuff, a little bit ingrained to your point.
the remember the wedding glasses that we got
That's right.
for
Okay, so
Joseph and
yeah, I am
and then
forgetting stuff.
for you guys. I
Sorry,
would say that was
sorry.
more our
Continue.
theme. It was a little bit also Beauty and the Beast, but it was mainly around Princess Bride, or at least that was our intention when we did
Right.
it. Um, but yeah, but then Els, when he was talking, like, obviously Rob Reiner came up and he was clearly emotional talking about him,
Hmm.
and it was just one of those things where then you can think about, and there's debate about today about what happened with him and his son, and then his political side of things. But it's like, yeah, that part of it is like, I think sometimes I don't hold actors in a higher regard in that way, or even sports players, but I compartmentalize who they are as an actor or what their achievements were in terms of entertainment, whether it's sports or actors. Like, but you also realize that they're, whether you agree with those people or how you view them, in a certain way, they, there are still people that they touch like really deeply, and you can kind of see that when there's memoriams for these type of people. But
Right.
I don't know. I was just kind of random. We brought up her, and then we brought up Reiner, and I thought about that over, and this happened just last weekend. But then again, like I said, you think about that whole thing of the good die young, but I think we only really highlight the good people that die. Somebody bad will die, and nobody will pay attention.
Yeah, I mean, and for the families impacted by that person who everybody considered to be bad, have a different opinion sometimes, right?
Go for
Like
it.
they obviously don't look at it from that perspective, and it's still sad.
Yeah,
But yeah, yeah, it's just to me, it's like these events start to happen, and as we get older, the reality is, this becomes more of the norm
yeah.
than surprisingly. But still, it's surprising when seeing her pass away, just because personally, I thought, she was gonna be around for a while. But these things, just like Rob Reiner, obviously his was a different situation. He was murdered, but you also never even grasp the concept, or at least I haven't. Knowing like Mel Brooks is 99, Dick Van Dyke's 100 years old. Like these are people we know very
Any day
well.
now.
Yeah, any day. He could go for a while. Dick Van
But no,
Dyke's
I
been
mean,
great, huh?
that may
But
sound
it
callous,
could.
and I
Yeah,
don't mean it that way, but it's just there's a reality where it's like, yeah, I mean, at that age, there's no rhyme or reason that he could just, I mean, and knock on wood, it doesn't happen anytime soon, blah blah blah. But actually,
but if it
I don't.
does, we're gonna blame
I don't
you. Everybody will have this on recording, as you're the cause.
yeah,
Fucking.
because I'm the master of the universe. But yeah, I mean,
Oh, wow. There you
it's
go.
the fact that if I'm the cause of it, then that's what it is. But yeah, it's just one of those things where you're right. Like tomorrow we can get it, and it's not like there's any rhyme or reason behind it. It's just that time.
Yeah. And not to get
Really,
philosophical, but the
really
reality is,
uplifting conversation we're having today.
yeah. So let's even go deeper into darkness. How the
Oh
fuck
shit.
did the Browns have a Pro Bowl quarterback?
Because they
Two.
need to
Two,
get
by the way, because the second.
because they need to get views. There's no reason for him to be a Pro Bowl
So,
quarterback.
so
Playing in the
to,
Pro Bowl, I mean, called a Pro Bowler should not be the same thing. Just
right.
because you went there because everybody else backed out shouldn't make you a Pro Bowler.
Correct.
The only Pro Bowlers are the ones who should be elected to it. If you end up playing in the Pro Bowl because they need a body, you should not be called a Pro Bowler. And there's anything against it, I've always felt this way. Like you've seen this happen so many times where they're down to their seventh quarterback. And like it happened with Huntley a few years ago, where he played one game and he became a Pro Bowler. And again, this isn't against the Ravens. This isn't against anybody. It's just an example that keeps on coming up that happened recently. But yeah, he should not be called a Pro Bowler because they had to find a warm body to play in that game.
Exactly, and that's why Joe Flacco's in it too. It's the first time in 18 years. First time in 18 years that he's going to the Pro Bowl. It's like, because exactly to your point. But it's humorous because my son made this comment to me this morning. He goes, "Isn't it fantastic? The Browns had 2 Pro Bowl quarterbacks, and they're still garbage," which was true. But if you look at it realistically, to exactly what you said,
they did not belong in the Pro Bowl.
No, they would never. Back in the 80s and 90s, true Pro Bowls, they would never even sniffed close to anything to ever get there, because you played a game and you had your top 3. They were all in it. Usually, the one who didn't make it would back out is probably going to the Super Bowl. But considering back then the Pro Bowl was played after the Super Bowl, they always made it. Now, because they've moved it up between the Super Bowl, because they need to always fill with content, right? Like we always have to have NFL 24/7.
They should not be called Pro Bowlers just because they're playing in the game.
No, it should just be called the NFL skills game.
Well, I keep on seeing
they should get rid of Pro Bowl altogether. There is no concept of Pro Bowl anymore.
No, they should go back to the whole thing. Remember, they were doing it in the late 90s and I think into the early 2000s where they had the skills competition. You know, who could throw the football the farthest.
Well, they have that with this too. I mean, they have that.
But I mean,
now.
Just have that.
Yeah, I agree. The flag football is stupid, but I guess that's my point. Like you hit it on the head. So there is the All-Pro selection. Those are the players who are voted on, selected by the league. It's the best players in their position, and that's it. Right. There is no Pro Bowl anymore. There's none of this generic honors. Now, I get it. Contracts in the past were based on performance stats, and if you got into Pro Bowl versus playoffs versus Super Bowl gives you extra. But let's just kill the Pro Bowl. Like it's gone. These are no longer the best of the best appearing in these games. This is generally going to be second, third tier players who weren't even top level.
Pro Bowl is useless.
Yeah, it's a skills challenge. To your point, that's all it is. Skills challenge.
The only ones that matters is whether you're first or second All Pro. That's the only one. Pro Bowlers don't mean anything because you've seen players go in legitimately, not like as a default, but go in, you know, their last year when they barely played, but because their name got them in. And even players and coaches will still have somebody going for that reason, for the nostalgia. But the one thing that's pretty accurate is the whole first and second team All Pro. That one is highly selected.
Oh, there's a no-brainer. When you're doing the first and second, you're 100% right. This is like a no-brainer. Like know these are best and that they deserve that spot. But yeah, I think remember the 80s Battle of the Network Stars?
Mm-hmm.
They should just call this Battle of the NFLs or the Battle of the NFL. And all it is just players they randomly pick. Doesn't care. That way it no longer matters. And so like someone like a Sanders, who again threw 7 touchdowns, 10 picks, and not against him because you brought up Huntley too. Huntley was against the year. But the point is the stats don't in any point state that these guys should ever be considered a Pro Bowl name. Yet they get there because there's no bodies to throw ahead of them anymore because everybody's backed out for some reason or just doesn't care. But really change it. Change it like the Battle of the Network Stars. You know, let's make it something more like that. To your point, it's all skills challenge. All you do is one weekend, one day of all these events, and then it's who wins, the AFC or NFC. That's it. It doesn't
And
even
if
matter who the players are.
the thing is, if you still want to have like a flag football game, that's fine, but don't call it like the Pro Bowl game. Just stop saying it. Just make it sound like it's an event, like you said, like Battle of the Network Stars. It's just one of the other events because it's not football. It's flag football.
Right.
It's not football at all. I mean, none of these players, would ever play that. First of all, you have no offensive linemen. So what?
Yeah.
You have a game that you have just a center hiking the ball or whatever. I don't know if they even do that in this one, but
I think
regardless,
they do. Someone tosses it back to them. Yeah. They always, I think they do. If I remember
I think so
correctly.
too. But I'm just saying, then no offensive linemen are playing. So, but because of this game, there's, our offensive linemen not all pros or Pro Bowlers because
Well,
I don't
that's
know.
why they
I
have
mean,
those skills
I think
challenges. That's where the Pro
it
Bowlers
just
come
goes to the
in.
skill challenge,
I mean, they're
and
playing
having them
dodgeball, dude. That's
that's
one of
fine.
the skills challenges, dodgeball.
That's fine, and you know what? I'm fine with that
But
because
that's where your
it's
offensive linemen come in who get selected to the Pro Bowl. It's games like that.
right. But I'm just saying that just put it as that. Don't call them a Pro Bowler. Maybe like you said, maybe just get rid of the honor because it's not. Just you could call it the NFL skills team or whatever the fuck you want to call it. But the idea of a Pro Bowler is no more. I mean, to your point. I mean, as soon as they got rid of any hitting or whatever, then it just became a skills challenge, and that's all it should be looked upon. So, if you want to say that, Sanders with no pressure and can do flag football better than other people, that's great. It has nothing to do with NFL though, and playing, every Sunday.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I don't think to your earlier point, like they just want a name in there. They don't. I mean, they don't care. It's no one. The viewership isn't going to change. It's not like it hasn't been a top viewing program for a decade longer.
Relevant,
Yeah,
I
like
mean,
nobody
not
cares.
longer.
That's why they moved the Pro Bowl between the
That's why they
Super
moved
Bowl.
it. Yeah, because nobody fucking watched it. Nobody cared. It was a free vacation in Hawaii. Remember, every year it was in Hawaii.
Which was the big loss for the players because it was a nice trip to go to Hawaii. It was a good
Yeah,
reason
it
to
was
go, and
free
they
free
took that
trip to
away.
Hawaii. Yeah.
Yeah, they took that away. They took the value
Well, in
behind
a way,
it.
like
So,
not saying anybody would want to give up playing in the Super Bowl for the Pro Bowl, but it was like one of those things where if you played in the Super Bowl, you got to also have this little vacation,
right.
a little fun game at the end of it. Especially maybe for somebody that lost, or even for the team that won. It's like a little bit of like grandstanding after the Super Bowl, but
Yep.
because viewership was crap, they cared more about viewership than the players, which
Yeah.
I understand.
So I'm saying right here today, and I think you agree, Pro Bowl is no more, and just get rid of that concept of Pro Bowl, and just call it the NFC versus AFC Skills Challenge weekend. That's it.
I think more importantly, if they want to keep on calling it the Pro Bowl, like whatever,
No, get rid of
stop
it. It's
calling
pointless.
but stop making it sound like anybody who plays in the Pro Bowl is an accolade because it's not anymore.
No.
It's not. I think that's what bothers me the most. I think my main focus is
That's why I say
keep
you can't really get people to think differently until you get rid of that name altogether. Like it has to go away.
Yeah,
Like,
I can live with that.
People will still selectively say, "Well, it was a Pro Bowl, so he's a Pro Bowl." It's like, come on, let's get rid of Pro Bowl. Let's just call it what it is now. It's just grab any players who are willing to do it. It's a skills challenge, and just have fun. And then viewership won't change, won't go up, probably won't go down much.
But at least it's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weekend where there's no football, so that's why it's there. Although I think the Pro Bowl's not even this weekend. I think it's during the week, the actual game.
I think so too, something like that. Yeah.
So they don't even care about that anymore. Well, since we're still in the NFL, let's switch it up. So you guys hired a coach. So it looks like your defense coordinator's walked because he's not happy with.
Well, we'll see. He's under contract for 3 more years, so it's
unless he had an agreement in there that says if he didn't get a head coach position, he can walk.
It wasn't.
Oh, you read his contract?
No. There was people who have read it who have already said that. Like he's pretty much locked in. So
really, because I keep hearing how the Niners are looking to grab him.
Yeah, but everybody says that because they don't care about it. But I'm just saying on our end, there's also the thing where it may even be more complicated than that because I think he's an assistant head coach or associate head coach or whatever. When
that was under Stefanski though.
But again, it's under contract. I know what you're saying, but supposedly, yeah, he may not be able to. Which I'm not really the biggest fan of the idea of just because like we don't want to lose him because he's a really good defensive coordinator. So make him head coach. It's like, well, we're still losing him as defensive coordinator. I think that there are very few coaches that can be an effective head coach and play caller as well. So, but I don't see him being able to be a defensive coordinator if he became head coach. So we would lose him anyways. But I don't
So
know.
what do you think about the Browns hire for the head coach?
Meh. I'm not either for or against it. At this point, I look at it every year. Everybody gets hyped up about this hire or down on this hire, and everybody's wrong. I think when you're talking about a coordinator becoming a head coach, any success you had as a coordinator means zero when you become a head coach.
Right.
Look at John Harbaugh. He was a special teams coordinator before he became a head coach.
True.
And then you look at all these other coaches that will have success. Some of them do. I mean, very few come back in as a head coach. Andy Reid's an example, but you have to go. There's way more misses as people who are recycled as coaches as there were hits.
Yeah.
Especially like we talked about the whole thing of the, winning a Super Bowl under one team and then winning it again on a second team. So we've talked about this in the past before, but in the end, I'm indifferent about it. I mean, because I just don't know. And again, I don't know if we have the personnel for it, but
right.
I think though it's kind of funny that people will say that they wanted this one. It's like, but I don't know. I look at him and all the other hires out there. You just don't know. It also has to be. I think there's also something that's the most that people underthink is that there's the idea that there has to be a fit as well. Stefanski could have been a good coach, but he wasn't a fit under where our current roster was and circumstances and everything like that. So he might do better in Atlanta than he was doing in Cleveland, and Monken might do great with exactly the same staff that Stefanski had. You just don't know. I mean, I have to kind of see how they actually do, because there's also the game time part of things that I think nobody knows until they're actually in the game. I think an issue I always had with Stefanski was game time adjustments was lacking. Second half, he never adjusted well. His time management was always questionable. There's decision making in the heart of the game that just was very questionable with him. So we'll see.
Well, and to your point, it also comes down to at the top, ownership, to the president, to the GM. If those components aren't good, then you will always struggle regardless of who your coach is.
Or they don't match. I mean, it could be just a matter of they have to all
name a bad ownership that's ever
had
a strong foundation. None. Like the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, well, first off, both the Raiders, talking about a bad organization, Raiders and Cardinals, two organizations that are completely just screwed. They still haven't found coaches. Like, there were a lot of good opportunity to get good coaches right at the beginning, and they couldn't land a single one. And there's nothing really compelling about either that a good head coach or a good potential hire would want to go there. But it starts at the top. Mark Davis knows nothing. He has no real clue. He doesn't have the best structure in place. Arizona Cardinals, that's an organization in its history that has never done it other than the one Super Bowl run that they had. They've been irrelevant for so long. That team could never play a game again, and other than the Cardinal fans, no one would even recognize that they weren't even there.
Like, well, actually, all those Dallas fans that live in Arizona are going to miss that because
of course, but they'll travel. They'll travel to Vegas. Yeah, it's not that far. Yeah. It's fine.
True.
But it's like the structure. Like, okay, so like I mentioned, Pittsburgh.
Browns is another leaves that has that issue.
Well, I think the Steelers are a much more structured organization. Definitely higher end. They have the history. They have the knowledge. They have the development. But I think Tomlin had just run his course. Like after so long, you coaches in general for a long period of time when they're kind of hitting that ceiling, so to speak, and can no longer get moving any further, then it's like, well, maybe it's time for them both to change. Like obviously to your point, like John Harbaugh got let go, he instantly lands for the Giants.
Oh, he's not going to win like the number one prospect.
Oh yeah,
period.
I'll say right here, right now, he will never win a Super Bowl with the Giants. Just specifically to my points in the past that you brought up earlier. But I will say he could at least help right the ship, structure it in a way to get some stability, and then the coach after him will probably have a better chance of moving forward.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, what do you think is the biggest quality in good ownership?
And first off, not only the passion to win, like to want to spend the money that you can within the cap, obviously, but it has a passion to win, but is also able to realize that their passion is to get the right leaders in those positions to succeed, not become the both the owner and the fucking GM, and you know who I'm talking about specifically. It's
No,
Jerry
no, no. Who are
Jones.
you talking about? Yeah.
But that is an example of a guy who wants to win, but he doesn't separate himself from what's most important. And that's where I distinguish the great owners
Yeah.
from other owners. Like Eddie DeBartolo wanted to win all the time,
He
paid
just
all the
fucking
money,
was a
didn't
open
care,
page.
but he also had
Yep.
Carmen Policy and Bill Walsh before that, whose whole focus was to deliver what he wanted. So I'll tell you, it's going to cost me this much for this player, or we need to get this player. Do it. If we need to drop a player, like Bill Walsh was notorious, he dropped players, which is a struggle for a lot of teams today to do that sort of concept. Bill Belichick was one, but realize, look, they're getting along in the tooth. Now's the time to cut free and just move on and continue that
A
path.
year early rather than a year late.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But so that's the owners I think are the strongest owners. Like Buffalo's not going to win a Super Bowl with their owner.
Hmm.
Like this guy has no clue. Like he's just making comments
Those
up.
comments were horrible.
Yeah. So
And
the
then,
Bills,
and then I think,
go ahead.
like you said, I think like that's kind of like where I think the Browns are at. I think for the most part, Lerner has, and I know a lot of Browns fans will disagree, but I think he tries to do that. But I think it's one of those things where he can't help but middle every once in a while. And I think that's where the issues come in for a lot of these bad owners is, I think Jerry Jones is an albatross. I think he is by far the most active owner. I mean, Snyder for a number of years was doing that type of thing as well, but I don't think anybody does it at the level of Jerry Jones.
No.
Jerry Jones is at another level above anybody else. I think where the Arizonas, the Browns, the Jets, the Giants with their ownership, I think they always meddle just enough to derail everything.
Right.
They always have a great idea, and they think that because I'm owner, I kind of look at it. There's that one movie with Favreau where he's a chef. I don't know.
Mhm.
I'm forgetting the name, but in the very beginning of it,
I think it's called The Chef.
the chef. Yeah, it is
Literally.
called the chef.
Yeah.
But in the very beginning of it, goddamn, but he was working at a restaurant, and I fucking have his face, but I can't remember his name. But the chef, the owner is like, the chef's like, no, it's my menu, and the owner's like, no, it's my restaurant. You execute on my menu.
Dustin
And
Hoffman.
that's how Dustin Hoffman, thank you. Dustin Hoffman. But he does that in the very beginning. And that's how I think a lot of these owners do it. They will meddle just enough to derail everything. And that's kind of what you saw with a lot of these players, or a lot of these decisions where, again, like not firing the GM in Buffalo, when they probably clearly should have, that type of thing as well. But I think that's like one of those things that happens where you see bad ownership constantly will be hands off for a long time, but then all of a sudden just do one little thing that fucks everything up. And we know the thing about players and coaches is once you lose them, they're gone. You have the contracts, you make a mistake, you do this, you do that, and it just takes one mistake to derail a franchise for years. For the Browns, Deshaun Watson was one of them. But there's always little things that do things where you commit to a player for too long because you feel as a coach that, or as an owner, that you want them to play more and you have faith in them. And since I'm the owner, I can do my influence and make sure this coach does that. And either the coach plays along because he doesn't want to lose his job, or he loses his job because he didn't agree with the owner. So
right.
But you're 100% right.
Yeah. So I agree. I think you hit everything on the head. And that explains why two teams in the Super Bowl right now. I mean, obviously the Patriots are in, and of course the Seahawks are in, who are about to sell their team potentially after the Super Bowl as part of the agreement.
Yeah.
But yeah, crazy. I mean, we'll talk about that next week's episode, who we think is going to win.
Yeah.
We didn't even go into the playoffs from last weekend. But hey,
Seahawks are going to win. Yeah, I'm sorry. I know everybody wants to try to say whatever they want about the Patriots and history.
Well, they have to.
Whatever.
They have to make it interesting. But I suspect this will be like the Super Bowl 20 victory the Bears had against the Patriots back then. Patriots got there, sure, but the superior team will just destroy them. I don't expect it to be close.
I think it is at least a 2 touchdown to 3 touchdown win.
Probably. So we'll talk more about it next week because we'll see how the week goes. Things can change. Yep. But happy said, once again, thanks again for everybody listening this week. You can follow us again on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel where we post our video. We are on every podcast channel, and we appreciate everybody following. Leave comments. Feel free to send us subjects you think would be fun to hear, too. We're always happy to talk through anything.
Yeah, we don't care.
There we go.
We really don't. We don't at all.
We do. We do care. I care more than you do. So that being said, everybody have a great weekend, and we'll be back next week.
See ya.